What is going on, guys? We are having a conversation about video game development and what the problem is, and I think I know why there are so many indie developers that are making games that are just not good at all, okay? And I'm not trying to specifically focus on this one. We're going to be showing different indie games just kind of in the background of this, and we're just going to be kind of like have a conversation about the whole idea of indie development and just development of video games altogether. And a lot of these games are they seem really messed up. Like either the difficulty factor is very poor or just the whole AI. There's a lot wrong with a lot of these games. Some of them are just extremely clunky. And I think the reason is because the financial side to developing a game. I think that's what it is. I think it's the financial side because the cost of developing is extremely high. The budget is extremely high for some of these games. Some of them in the hundreds of millions of dollars. And even some of the ones that are not that high, and it depends on what genre of game, because if you look at fighting games, like even games that are supposed to be MMA based, they don't even have, a lot of them don't even have grappling in the game at all. There's no grappling in any indie development game. I've never seen it before. Even wrestling, low budget wrestling games struggle with grappling, and we're talking about wrestling. But you look at these low-level indie developers, like this one here, Midnight Fight Club is what it is. You realize just how, and the thing of it is, the prices are. This is $20+ dollars. I think it's $24.99, $23.99, something along those lines. And it's not matching this here. This looks like a $5 game. But I don't know what their budget was to produce this. But I can tell you right now, a developer like that realistically would not have the financial grounds to produce something that would even be anywhere similar to UFC 5 or no, UFC 1. You know what I mean? Like, even though this is a newer game, this game can't even match old UFC games from the early 2000s. And that is because, to me, I used to feel like, well, these developers are very they don't understand how to make games, or they just don't understand the technology. But I don't think it's that. I think it's the financial side to it. I think because a lot of bigger games, they are producing games and then making less than they used to make the game. A lot of the developers are doing that. That happens sometimes. And I think they just have to make X amount of dollars on the game, so that's kind of why the price has to be at a certain level. And I don't know the budget of a game like this, but I would bet anything that it's higher than you would predict it to be, because we don't understand the pricing of building a game. It's hard to comprehend that for people like us who are not in the game development world and don't really understand how much that stuff costs. Now, I don't know how big this developer is. I know they're not very big, that I'm sure of. But I can tell you what, this game right here is very enjoyable. It's one of the better indie developers. But I'm going to show you something, because they had to make a sacrifice to get to that level, to have a game that was worthy of being played. And we're going to get into it in a second. Okay? I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? I'm Rio here. I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm talking about. There's a couple things that's not gonna jump out at you that are about this game. Now, the first thing I will tell you is the graphics are they sacrificed graphics, and there are a lot of people that don't want to play a game with these type of graphics. The other thing is the players are very, very much the same. What I mean by that is there's no attributes in this game at all. There's no attributes. All the players are equivalent to one another. They're just avatars. But I didn't even notice that the game, until I played it after a while after playing it. And yes, it is an enjoyable game, but this is not something that a lot of people are gonna. There's some people that are not gonna even want nothing to do with this. I can tell you that right now, even though I like it, and I don't feel like their budget was that high to produce a game that looks like this, that operates like this. And that goes to what I was talking about when I said genre, because what genre you choose to make is gonna make a difference. And I feel like a soccer game made like this would be a lot simpler than making a fighting game or a wrestling game that has grappling moves and all that other stuff. So what type of game you decide to make is going to make the world of a difference as well. And like I said, to me, this one actually landed. And this is one of the smaller developers here too. Now, they actually made that soccer game that I already showed in the beginning of this video, but this is a PS5 game by that same developer. And this game right here is a lot closer to being a decent game. But again, like the soccer game, the issue with this game is the difficulty factor is just not there. It's an extremely easy game. You're likely never going to lose playing this. And that is really the only issue that I have. Now, it's a $5 game, okay? And I'm not going to mention developers in this video. I'm not going to pick on, it may sound like I'm picking on certain developers and trying to make some developers look bad, and I don't want to do that. These are small developers. But going back to my initial subject, I think the issue with developing is the prices. I think the pricing of developing games is outrageously too high, and it is making it very difficult for the indie developers. I don't think they have the resources. They definitely don't have the money to produce games that can even compete with some of the decent games that are out there, especially a AAA game. They pretty much have no chance whatsoever to even compete with them. And you can beat them in some areas, like certain areas of fun factor and whatnot. Like this game, I feel like you can enjoy it for a second. You can't, it's not going to be that immersive because the difficulty factor is just too easy. And that is where the sacrifice is. They have to invest in the way the artificial intelligence functions and all that type of stuff. All that stuff is budget based. What type of system you have with AI, how you're able to invest into the graphics, which engine you use, all that stuff is all a financial matter when it comes to producing a video game. And I think the sacrifice they made with this one was the biggest sacrifice was the AI and the difficulty factor, because the difficulty factor in this is, I'm gonna be honest, it's very low. There's no difficulty in this. It's extremely easy. But the game, it's a $5 game. I always say you should never expect a lot when you pay $5 for a game. I don't think it makes sense to expect this groundbreaking, extremely incredible game when you pay $5 for a game. And that's what this was. It was a $5 game. And this is nothing more than I expected. I mean, it's actually better than I expected just because of the developer and looking at some of the other games they made that were so bad. And the price, to me, is part of the reason why I feel like they have to charge. And this This game here is only $5, so I'm not talking about this developer. I'm talking about the developers that are in the 20s and 30s in the price range, and then you get the game, and you're like, nah, this is an outrageous, ridiculous cluster. This is horrible. I think that's the reason. I think they have to make their money back, but they, at the same time, they never had the money to produce those type of games that are gonna blow your, that are gonna get your attention and make you excited and whatnot. That's why you have, you know, Midnight Fight Club type games, because they are actually trying to produce these good games. I just don't think they can do it. So the only other answer to this would be they just shouldn't produce the games, and that's a really sad idea. If you say, well, they just need to leave it alone, don't produce nothing. But they don't have the developers, they don't have the money. You know what I mean? And the investors don't want to put their money into one of those type of developers, looking at their reputations that they already have. And that's what I think it is. I think indie developers are struggling right now because games look really bad. To be honest, some of them do. Some of them look horrible, and they play horrible. I don't think they're just a bunch of idiots that are just trying to rip everybody off and make an easy dollar. I don't think that's what it is. I used to look at it that way. It's not that. I think it's the price of developing games is just out of reach. You can't use the type of resources and technology and engines you want to use for your game because of the financial side to it. That stuff is just extremely expensive. Like I said, I'm seeing gaming budgets that are in the hundreds of millions of dollars, $100 million to produce a video game. I feel like a lot of these indie developers, they don't have a decent. Some of them don't have a shot. They just don't, because of the genre of game that they choose to make. You know what I mean? Something like this, you can produce with a smaller budget. Now, I'm not gonna act like I know what the budgeting is. I have no idea how much something like this would cost to produce. But even a game like this, and I don't know much about the developer, but I know they're a smaller developer. I do know that for sure. And it looks almost like a cross. Well, it definitely looks like a cross between Crash Bandicoot and Mario Brothers. And that's why I know it's a smaller developer. But this game here, even a game like this doesn't function well. Sometimes you just die without a reason. In this game, I was getting that a lot when I was playing it. And it's like I'll just be playing, then all of a sudden the guy would just die out of the blue without purpose. And I'm pretty sure it's glitched up. And even a game this small, with whatever the budget is, I'm imagining that it's not the highest of budget. But I would bet anything that even something like this probably costs more than you think, you know, because it looks like it wouldn't cost much, but for the type of software and whatever type of engine you would need to use to produce a game, you know, they have to invest into that, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not advanced enough to really know those types of, I don't know that type of stuff. So I can't give you anything on that. As we got to waste our fire bullets. But even a game like this, that seems like a simple game that wouldn't cost anything, this doesn't even function well. You know what I mean? So, and that's one of, as you can see, I just died doing that, you know? They make, you know, the guys, I'm almost sure they didn't want the guy to die that easy. I think there's something clunky going on here, but this is a really small developer. I don't know how small they are, but I do know that they're a small developer. But my point is, I think the money is ruining the gaming market. The money is. Because even some of these other bigger games, like the ones that spend hundreds of millions of dollars and they lose money and then they produce more games after that, You're lucky they're even able to even continue a company. A lot of companies, if they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on any project, that would be the end of their company. I mean, they'd be done. If they did that and didn't make the money back, they would be in serious jeopardy. But these companies are already super rich because I think that the video game development market has evolved. And for some developers, depending on what it is you're trying to make, some of them, whatever it is they're trying to make a decent, good product is absolutely out of reach. It's like they're not going to get there. They can't get there. It's like, it's, as you can see, the way he just died, it didn't make sense. But that's my point. The way these games are produced, they don't have the resources and money. They don't have the money, which is going to give you the resources to produce these games that they're trying to make. So I think they are, from an honest level, they are trying to make games for us. They're trying, but I just don't think, I think the financial side to game development just puts it way out of reach. And they still want to do it. They try. And you end up with these games that we'll play and we'll say, no, this is just absolute garbage. This is horrible. But looking at the other side of it, I think, I don't want to talk down on the indie low-level developers for that reason, because I think from an honest standpoint, they are actually trying, and they do want to produce a decent game. I just think they can't. It's just out of reach for them. It's out of reach. The financial side is out of reach, and I'm looking at some of the budgets for some of the games. I looked up some, and I was shocked to see how many games cost more than $50 million to produce. And then you look at the game, you're like, really? This costed more than $50 million to make? But that's the way it is now. And I think it is kind of ruining the gaming industry. The money, the development, the prices are just ridiculously too high.